We are back to Prime Morning. My name is Esiodua Akumia. It's time for Good Living segment. It's a segment that we bring to you every Tuesday. We delve into health. Now, the entire month of May is being dedicated to mental health awareness. It's the Purple Month. And we've started very great. We've started awesomely. And we've received a lot of messages from you in relation to mental health. We want you to keep on sending the messages. Today's topic for discussion, still on mental health awareness, the myths and the facts surrounding it. There are so many stories that I know that you've heard about mental health. Some even go as far as if you are to touch a madman, there's a high possibility you could also go mad. So some don't even want to get close to a family member who, possibly has some mental illness, which is very sad. But what are some of the myths that you've heard in relation to this? Send it to our WhatsApp number. Our specialist psychiatrist is here with us this morning, and he's in the person of Reverend Dr. Joseph Kofi Adu. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, and how are you too?
I'm good. I'm very, very good, and I'm happy we're about to have this convo because I have heard quite a number of myths surrounding mental health, and so I am happy that we are going to have this conversation. And viewers, the WhatsApp number is active. Send your stories that you've heard about mental health, your myths or certain facts that you know to our WhatsApp number, and I'll read them in the course of the conversation. Or if you have any questions at all, I'll read them. Or you can go to our Facebook page. It is Joy Prime TV. Get into the comment section and send in any questions at all. And don't forget to hit the share button. Reverend, Doc, and please, which title do I give you? How do I address you?
That's called me Kofi Adu.
Kofi, okay. So, Kofi Adu, the myths surrounding mental health. We started off a series, trying to understand what goes, the reason or certain instances that people end up even having certain mental issues, which most of the times is highly relatable, and we don't even see it coming sometimes. But it looks like we allow ourselves and sit down, and then before we realize we are having certain issues here and there with our mental health and all of that. Now, I know that you've dealt with a lot of cases. You have a lot coming to you day in, day out. What would you pinpoint as the main myths that people, or something scary, that people come to you to ask you questions on in relation to their mental health?
Okay, thank you very much. When we talk about mental health, one of the common myths about mental health is that it only affects people who have a weak will, or they don't have a strong willpower, or if somebody is not maybe what we call say in Chido say or is not courageous. We feel that mental health is because people are generally weak. So we realize that even if people are going through challenges, sometimes people are even afraid to come and share their story because of the perception around them that people will think that they are not strong enough, they cannot deal with issues. But that is a myth, because mental health issues is not because of a weak willpower, but it's because of sometimes the circumstances that happen to us.
Especially men.
Especially men.
Yeah.
It's because of the circumstances that happen to us. It's because of your upbringing. Your upbringing can be part. The genetics you inherited. A lot of things come together before somebody can be diagnosed with a mental illness. It's not just a weak willpower or this person is not strong. So you realize that a lot of men call in. So there are proverbs like,
yeah.
So even if men are going through pain, they cannot express it because it's in our culture, it is portrayed as a form of weakness. Even women who, let's say, deliver, there's something called postpartum blues, postpartum depression, but there are stories like, me, when I gave birth 5 children, I was able to bear, I was even going to the farm.
Yeah.
So a professional woman who is working so hard and even having a baby, when she's going through it, she's afraid to even come out because there is this myth that you are weak, and you have been told that you cannot be seen as weak, but mental health goes beyond just being weak. The second myth I also talk about is that people with mental illness are violent. That there is this myth that people who have been diagnosed...
It's a myth. I actually believe that. Oh.
Who are diagnosed. Truth is that compared to the normal population, it is 10 times unlikely for a person living with a mental health condition to be violent. They are more at the other end of receiving people being violent to them than they themselves being violent. We have a smaller percentage. If you compare it to the normal population, the population will be like 10:1. So for every 10 people who are violent, it's only one person living with a mental illness. Look at the violence that goes on in our society. People fighting at nightclubs and other things. These are not people who have been diagnosed with a mental illness. We are more likely to be violent than people. And the people who are even living with the mental health condition are more likely to be the recipients of violence. But the reason why I think a fear is created is because of the appearance. Sometimes the people we see, they look disheveled, they look unkempt.
Yeah.
And there is this perception that obetumi obibi or the person can hurt you. So it is an ingrained fear in human beings, naturally, that things we don't understand, we tend to be more afraid of them. But fact is that there are few people living with mental health who will be violent. But as compared to the normal population, they are less violent. And they are more likely...
This is actually quite difficult to believe, because you know why? There are quite a number of times where, excuse my language, the ones that we see on the streets mostly, you understand what I'm trying to say? It's like that quite often, and you see that a lot, with a lot of them. So it's like it gives away the notion that no, almost all of them or all of them are violent. That's and you don't know, you've not done anything, maybe you're just walking past by. And then as a person chase you, or person you know.
So, to be honest with you, before I entered into mental health, I had the same perception.
Okay.
And I tell people that I don't fault people who have the same perception that like they are likely to be violent.
Yeah.
But if you look at the statistics, let's talk about, when we say violence, let's talk about physical abuse. Most people who met physical abuse to people are not people who are living with mental health. People who beat people, who bully people. True. Domestic violence. All this type of violence is not being met out by people who are living with mental health illness, but it's just that they are the ones that we see and we talk about. Most people who are being abused physically in their homes are not even talking about it. So if you compare the number of violent cases
as compared to
theirs,
people living with mental health illness, it's significantly not so much.
Yes, but I think it is the ingrained fear, because we are afraid of the unknown. Because someone you cannot interact with. You don't know the person's response to even your expressions, your facial expression. So naturally you are cautious that they will attack you. But truth is, most of them, if you meet them and you come to the clinic or you come to the wards and we are talking with them, most of them are very, very friendly. And funny enough, most of them will not even be violent towards you. There are a few cases where some of them become violent, but as compared to the normal population, they are rather at the end of people being violent towards them. Because sometimes they are just maybe coming to the car, then all of a sudden there's a mob action and people are just... Because sometimes it's because of the kind of things they are going through. Sometimes they are hearing voices inaudible to others. Sometimes they are seeing images. So sometimes they are even running away from things and maybe they just came to your car for solace. But because we don't understand, you will scream, and our natural reaction is to be defensive, which is normal. And sometimes they rather at the end of violence.
One main myth that I've heard quite a number of times, I've seen it even on social media, that when you're somebody who oftentimes hallucinates, there's a high possibility there's something wrong with your mental health. Is that true? Okay,
so when we talk about hallucination, I think there is a dictum in English called hallucination where we all use.
All right.
But the definition of hallucination is perception in the absence of an adequate stimulus. So let's say we are here. the person begins to see images.
Yeah.
Like, see somebody standing here.
Yes.
And they can describe it vividly.
Yes.
So, like, if I ask you to describe this thing, you can describe it. It's a four, it's rectangular, and they can describe it. And everybody in that space cannot see it.
True.
So, if somebody is having that consistently, not under his willful control,
Right.
then it is likely that the person may be having hallucinations and may be having a mental illness. However, there's something called mental imagery, where sometimes when you are there, you can have certain thoughts in your mind that feels real. Right now, if I ask you to close your eyes and think about your mom,
Okay.
you will see your mom.
Yeah.
What is she wearing?
She's wearing boo-boo.
Yes. But you see, the moment you open your eyes,
Yeah.
it's no longer
It
there.
goes away.
So we are permitted to have mental imageries because that's how our minds function. So mental imageries are different from hallucinations. Most of the time, when people say that, oh, they are feeling things and they are seeing
things,
it's more of imagery, or it's more of sensory feelings that they are feeling, not necessarily hallucinations, because hallucinations are very uncomfortable. Imagine you are seeing somebody talking to you and you are the only person who is seeing it, and nobody understands you. It is very difficult.
Right. It's like you're seeing a ghost.
Yes. Which is real. Who is always there. And sometimes talking to you, sometimes giving you instructions. Sometimes they are dressed in such a way that they are intimidating you. There are times we've had cases where people have come and they are seeing images of maybe men and women dressed in black, and they're always following them wherever they are.
So they do actually see that.
Yes.
But people on the other side,
you will not see it.
Are not seeing.
Yes. So sometimes you see they are there and they are laughing. Like somebody will be there and there is nothing funny and the person is laughing and the person is talking to himself. Sometimes there's a voice in their ear and they are hearing the voices like the way me and you.
Very audible.
Very audible. And the voice sometimes is running commentary on their life, like she's sitting down, she's folded her arms, she's wearing a necklace, she's doing this. And it's uncomfortable. So yeah, sometimes they engage in conversations. So it is very distressing. But normally, there's even normal hallucinations. There's something called hypnopompic hallucination. Hypnopompic. So when normally you are waking up from bed, there are times you hear as if somebody called you. Like,
that's true.
They ask, oh, did you call me? And the person will say, no, I didn't. And those are normal. If you have those things, sometimes because of tiredness, or the moment you're about falling asleep, it looks like you are hearing people calling. Sometimes if you are too stressed and you are tired.
Right now, I can hear my director calling me. He's saying my name. Sabi Okuto, you are warned.
You get it?
He's saying my name intentionally.
Yes. Yes. So those ones are normal. Illusions. You are walking in the dark, then you see a tree.
Yeah, in the
it looks as if there's somebody with a cutlass. Those perceptions as a result of fear. If you draw close, you just realize that it was just a tree, and it goes away.
So even the way we feel sometimes affects our vision?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Truth is, if you are anxious, even the things that are around you, you may not even see. That's why sometimes if you are scared and you are afraid in an exam, you are more likely to make a lot of mistakes. Even the very things that you know. You're coming for an interview, you are not well prepared. You realize that even the things you know, you forget what you're about to say, then you begin to mumble and fumble. Yeah.
In a situation where you're on the streets, it's dark, you're walking in the streets all alone, but you're going smoothly and everything. Maybe you've even got your earphones in your ear and you're listening to music and all of that. But then all of a sudden you feel that there's something either approaching you or following you or around you. Does that have to do with anything mentally? Because maybe you didn't start off afraid because you often walk in the dark on that street. But this particular day, you just end up feeling there's someone following you.
So, anxiety, we are all permitted. Emotions. One of the other myths is that people have mental illnesses because of mood swings and emotions. No. Truth is, we are supposed to have emotions.
Okay.
People say that you cannot be sad. You are supposed to be happy every time. That's wrong. Our emotions are a means of survival. That is why if you see a snake, the emotion of fear helps you run. If you lose a loved one, you being sad shows that you care. So our range of emotions is normal. It is when that emotion or that feeling now affects your function. So let's say you were going and all of a sudden you started feeling that somebody is following you. You turned. There was no one following you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then now all of a sudden you are scared, you are stuck in the middle of the road and you are crying and you are shouting.
I will run.
Then it could be a problem.
Okay.
But we are all permitted to be scared.
Yeah.
We are all permitted to feel sad. We are all it is when these emotions, one, affects your function, affects your relationship with others, affects your occupation, the way you are working, your productivity. That is when we see that it is affecting your mental health. But once in a while, you cannot be happy every time.
Yeah.
You cannot be sad also every time.
Yeah.
You cannot always be laughing. There are times that you are supposed to get angry because the thing is pissing you off. Mm-hmm. Yes, but you should not get angry 7 days a week. But in the moment, that is the emotion you feel. And it is normal.
Kofi, there are some people who oftentimes, they have mood swings way too many times. They feel like, I have days I'll be smiling with this person or with these people. And I have a lot of times that I will go off on them. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to me. Why do you have to behave that way? But let's forget about that. People with anger issues.
Yeah.
I have heard a lot of times when somebody blurs out or when somebody bursts out their emotions angrily and all of that, or does that often, we oftentimes associate people who have anger issues having mental problems. How true is that?
Most of the time, if people are angry, I say anger should be in context. Let's say you go home and there is somebody who is maltreating your child. You're not supposed to smile. In that moment, you're supposed to get angry. Mm-hmm. But after that, whilst the issue is solved, within that period, the anger should not linger on for days. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Truth is, when most people are angry, especially, let me use the workspace, most of the time is displacement. So displacement is when we express anger to people who are our subordinates because the anger they are displacing on you is not to you. Let's say they had a fight with their wife, but maybe they don't want to offend their wife.
So they bring it on to me.
So when they come to work,
right,
and something happens, you cannot challenge them. So you realize that maybe the thing that happened, the proportion of the anger is not in relation to the incident. But most of the time, a lot of people do displacement, and it's people who cannot really solve issues, especially when it comes to if they are the same level or the person is higher than them, then they try and bring it. They went for a meeting, they were asking them for targets, and they are not meeting targets. Yeah, now they come, they leave the meeting, everybody in the control room has to get it. So most of the time, it's a form of displacement.
Right.
And if you don't control it, that is when sometimes it may lead to other things. Mm-hmm. You may become, personally, if you are angry consistently, it may affect your perspective of life. Yeah. In the end, you feel like you are not accomplishing anything. Right. People don't like you. Yeah. And once those things happen, then you may get depression, you may get anxiety disorders, and you may get other things like sleep disorders and other things. So anger itself, it is when it affects your function, it affects your social relations, and it's consistent, and it's beyond proportion. That is when it's a problem.
Okay. Now let's come to some facts in relation to mental health. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are many times that a lot of us confuse, like the way you have made us understand the clear distinction or the deeper understanding into hallucination. Yeah. We just use the word because we want to use it and not really have a deeper meaning to it. But you've helped us this morning. So let's come to basic facts of mental health.
Okay, so basic facts. Mental health disorders is not for a specific group of people.
Okay.
Everybody is at risk of having a mental health issue.
Okay.
Because mental health is actually a continuum. Where you are normal, if things happen, you begin to react. And the way you react will tell whether you come back to normal or you have a condition. So there are not specific people that have mental health in it. However, there's what we call genetic predisposition. There are certain things that if, let's say, a family member, research has shown that maybe if a a family member has had depression, maybe a first-degree relative, mom or dad has had depression, you are at a higher risk of...
Okay.
It does not mean that you will get depression, but you are at
there's a possibility.
You're at a higher risk, so you have to rather take good care of yourself,
Right.
knowing that these things have happened.
Okay.
You realize that in families where maybe the parents abuse substances, alcohol, cigarettes, you realize that the children who grow up may pick up on these things and they also start abusing it. So there's also the genetic bit. Then also one of the things that people talk about mental health, that there's no treatment, there's no help. There's actually a lot of help for mental health. Mental health has really, really advanced. Sometimes people have this perception that when you come there's a long needle that we inject you with a needle.
That's true.
Then we'll put you in a room.
I've thought same before.
We will lock you up. The other thing is that psychotherapy helps.
Okay.
People say, especially the men, sometimes you ask men to do psychotherapy, they're like, why should I go and sit there for somebody to talk to me?
Yeah.
But these are trained people. We are trained people to know what to ask you.
Okay.
Because sometimes you have bottled things up that you don't want to talk about. But psychotherapy helps. There are medications now that there's advancement. There are even medications that you have to take like once every 6 months. It's an injection. So you don't have to be coming every day for it, but it's quite expensive. So if you can afford it, you can. But there's also treatment for everybody. We are trying to roll some of the medications on the National Health Insurance.
Oh, great.
So that people can afford and come to the clinic.
Yeah, because I remember that one of the weeks, I think about 2 weeks ago, we had a guest here and the conversation was on the fact that some people also have the fear that if I am to get to a hospital and have my mental health checked and all of that, what if indeed I have an issue and then they tell me I have to be on drugs, I have to be on da-da-da-da. It is expensive. I don't have the money to do that. So I'm happy that you're saying that this is being done.
One myth I also like to... One fact is that we who are psychiatrists, we don't have issues. I think that it's something I like to say to everybody watching us, that we are normal people. We are okay. We are also permitted to have our issues.
Right. Okay.
But you should not be afraid to talk about it. But there's this perception that people who work in mental health actually have mental health issues. That's why they are there. We have. Like the same way everybody are. Just that we are confident enough to seek help. You get it? But most of you will hide, and do not be deceived. Especially in the age of social media. Don't let anybody buy pressure for you.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody...
I like that. Please repeat that part.
Like in the age of social media, don't let anybody buy unnecessary pressure for you. Everybody is packaging.
Thank you.
Sometimes the box is empty, but the package looks very nice. If you need to seek help, brother, call us.
Cool.
Walk in.
Yeah.
Right now, we have decentralized mental health. So if you walk in almost every hospital, every clinic, there's a mental health unit.
Yes.
So even if you are afraid to come to the traditional ones, where you are walking into Pantine, everybody's looking at you some way, you can walk into any clinic and seek help. You are not sleeping well, seek help. You're having issues, seek help. Talk to somebody.
And when we can, you not lock us?
We will not lock you.
Okay.
Because we don't want to
We will not be locked.
Because we don't want to hear that this person died by suicide because then all of a sudden we start asking, oh, he was smiling the last time, he was laughing with everybody the other day, but...
Which are stories we hear a lot. We hear this a lot. Oof.
If you seek mental help, you are not less than.
Kofi, briefly, before you go, one other myth that I have heard in relation to substance abuse, I heard that when the people, the individuals themselves, the people who are abusing the drugs, when they avail themselves wholeheartedly to be helped, they are helped and they do receive it and you see it. But when they don't come to that realization of, I need help, and so I am accepting the help, they never get well and it gets worse.
So there's a proverb that you can force a horse to the riverside, but you cannot force the horse to drink. And that is one of the issues we have, where sometimes relatives will force people to do rehab.
Okay.
Truth is that rehab is about you accepting that I have a problem, and this problem is destructive to my life, and I need to turn a new leaf around.
Okay.
It's difficult. So if the person does not do it willingly, I know people who go for rehab after rehab after rehab because the people themselves have not come to the point of realization. And sometimes, not to cast doubt on anybody, sometimes when you come to the traditional rehabs and we ask you to do certain things before we admit, most people feel like we don't want to admit. So they will take the person to any rehab that is there for the financial gain. However, we are there to do what we call motivational interview so that the person comes to the awareness that this thing is destroying me.
Okay.
Then the person will accept the change.
Okay.
If you are eating some kind of wache and people are saying don't eat the wache, but you don't come to the point that it's giving you diarrhea every time, you will still go there and buy the wache. But when you come to the point of realization that this thing is destroying me, then we'll have help.
Reverend Dr. Joseph Kofi Adjei, thank you so much for your time this morning. I've learned a lot. And I know that there are so many myths to this that we could have delved into. But maybe, God willing, next week, hopefully, when we enter June, we'll continue the conversation on mental health because it's very important. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right. Viewers, so this is where we end Good Living segment right here on Prime Morning. But KMJ has a very interesting conversation for you during the entertainment segment. My name is Asiedua Akomia. Don't forget to continue getting interactive with us on all our social media platforms and on Facebook. Hit that share button. We'll be right back.